But there have been so many interesting revelations, like the dog that had a stomach issue. Turns out he had swallowed some orbs. Like all of the animals that, a lot of times the animals will come in and they'll look around, and here we're in the treehouse. Yeah. This is a space where we do our work. And they look around like, oh my goodness, there's so many sparklies, and they can see all the energy. And that's a whole chapter in the book, how they see energy and orbs and all of that. Mm-hmm. Well, this dog saw orbs that would come up to his face, and he decided, I'm just going to eat it. So he ate 2 of them, and they were messing up his stomach and filling it up, and he couldn't eat, or he had upset stomach. So I walked him through expelling it, and he was fine. And his parents were about to spend a lot of money on a vet. So that was funny.
Hi, everyone. It's Candace Krog-Goldman from quantumhealers.com, and I am so excited today to talk to my always wonderful and amazing friends, Will and Allison Brown. Hi, you guys.
Hey.
Hello. It's always happy to connect with you.
Yep.
It's really, really great. So we are going to talk today about animal communication. And we, meaning us 3, have had lots of adventures about animal communication just between us and including Tom. But you guys have been doing animal communication for a while on top of your other healing work. Mm-hmm. And we decided today to just focus on that topic, because here at quantumhealers.com, we support people who do all kinds of healing work, whether that be with people, with animals, and whatever modality it is. And we want to talk to these 2 about animal communication today, how they got involved in it, how they do it, the book that was written, what it's like, how other people, this is one of my favorite parts, when you talk about the part that people confirm that they're already hearing their pets. I want to talk about that, but mostly want to talk about how you started and what you do now, what kind of services you offer now. So take it away.
Yeah. Where do we want to start?
Do you want to go first?
Start with, well, I mean, this all started kind of just by chance. We were working with a good friend and just playing around up here in the treehouse. And at the end of the session, and unbeknownst to me, this was an agreement that Allison made with our good friend. I was already in channel. I was already in a personal channeling and just kind of playing around in that energy. So I was already out. And unbeknownst to me, Allison had an agreement to speak to one of our cats, or actually all 3 of our cats at the time, but one cat in particular that had some behavioral issues. And so the cat with the behavioral issues continued until the point at which Allison was kind of at a crossroads. We'll just put it that way. She was at a crossroads. What do I do with this cat? I'm at a point at which I can't allow this behavior issue, which was urinating everywhere, to take place, and all the stress that was involved with that. And so there was a kind of almost a binary, do we let it continue to happen, or do I take the cat to the vet and put the animal down? But then Allison, because of doing BQH and doing the channeling sessions through myself with the higher self and different things, different aspects, she said, well, let's play and see what we can bring through. And so she brought forward that particular cat. And then that's where I'll let you take over, because obviously the rest of it is where I was in channel. And
right. I mean, I figured since he could connect with humans, why couldn't he connect with animals, right? And we just had never tried it. And it was a last-ditch effort. I thought, why not? We have nothing to lose. So we talked to Dasher. That was our male Himalayan. And that conversation was so profound. I mean, I was crying, and I connected with Dasher on a level that I had never connected with an animal before. I mean, soul to soul. And when Dasher kind of explains to me his perspective, at that point, it didn't even matter if the behavior changed, because I had so much more compassion for the animal. and a different understanding. And so our relationship did a 180, and I went downstairs and would sit on the couch, and the cat would just go slump on my lap, was very affectionate. I mean, our relationship changed, and that changed my energy towards Dasher. And in turn, that changed Dasher's energy. I wasn't upset with him. I wasn't coming at him from this place of anger and frustration anymore. And his behavior did change. It was drastic. It was immediate. It was crazy. Yeah. I talked to all three cats at the time.
But can you give us a clue how it started?
How which started?
That he was doing this.
I don't know exactly. There was just one day that all of a sudden he urinated on our bed, and he was always in our room and on our bed. Mm-hmm. And then he started urinating on the children's beds, or if there was a stranger or somebody that Dasher didn't know who was spending the night or whatever, he'd run up and urinate on their bed, and just everywhere. And we were washing the sheets constantly. If you left your door open for just a minute, he was in there and expressing his frustration at whatever the energy that was coming into the house or whatever it was he didn't like. And he did tell us it was energetic, but we weren't sure how to change that. We gave him Reiki, and, we talked to him. We tried not to be frustrated. We just never could change that energy dynamic until we actually spoke to him. And speaking to the animal like that, when they have a human voice, it just really changes things. It's amazing. So we had 3 cats at the time, and we ended up talking to all 3 of them, and it was just unbelievable. And we thought this needs to be spread everywhere. People need to have this opportunity. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is life-changing. And so we called our friends who had 5 rescue dogs. All of them had been abused and rescued. They came over, and one by one, in one full session, we talked to each of them for about 15 minutes, and you could see their personality, each personality change as each animal came in, and they explained all about abuse. How do they heal from that? What do humans need to know about it? How do they feel about pet siblings? All of this sort of stuff. And those women with their 5 dogs were so blown away too. And I still get goosebumps thinking about it because of how profound it was, that we knew that we needed to have this as a modality for other people.
The one takeaway from that session was that how they expressed that every time that we would switch into a new animal or a new dog, my demeanor would change to represent their demeanor. I mean, I would take on the characteristics, the small little nuanced characteristics that only the owner would see and feel and be present in. And I
know you've experienced that,
right,
Candace.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So that was
my favorite one is my little Delilah cat, who has this very strange, very specific, very unique sort of flitty thing that she does with her tail. And when you were connecting and your hand was going, and just like that, I'm like, oh my goodness, look at that. I mean, it's still one of the most profound, and there's been so many profound moments, but that right there was my favorite, my absolute top favorite, because some people will they'll say, oh, you can just guess, or it applies to all of animals, and and no, it's so unique. And can I interrupt your story, because I know you want to say more about that, but Will, you had pets when you were growing up, didn't you?
Cats, only cats, all my life.
And did you feel like when you were growing up, or throughout your life, did you feel like you were talking to them already?
I wouldn't say the conventional understanding communication, no, but I just, I think now, knowing what I know and now what I understand, or how I understand it, yes, I definitely had a deep connection to them. And thank you for bringing that up, because I was going to bring up the fact that the only thing that I do prior to a session, to any animal communication session or animal higher self or energy session, all I require is a picture, the name, and the age. And I bring that up here and I sit with it, and I take maybe 2 or 3 minutes to look at the picture, and instantly I feel that connection line up. and then, I say an intention over it and whatnot. And it's the same feeling that I can now understand what I was feeling with my pets growing up. It's that same type of inward connection, not just, oh, okay, well, it's a cat, so they're going to have this kind of demeanor or that kind of presence. No, this is something even deeper than that. And how that plays out, and you've witnessed I think you witnessed this as well, but many of the clients, the animal will be with them, on Zoom, or, we don't bring them here to the treehouse when they come in person, but a lot of times the animals are with the client in the room during the Zoom session, and they're just chill. They're just doing their thing. But as soon as I make the connection and drop into their energy, that animal wants to either jump up on the chair, wants to be right there in front of the camera, wants to be around whatever's going on, and just kind of stirs in the energy through the session. So which that tells me that, okay, we're making a solid connection here. And I'm getting chills just thinking about that, because that's the depth by which, when I drop into my trance, I know I'm there. So,
Perfect. So you start out with your cats, and then these 5 rescue dogs, and then you started thinking, we need to tell people about this.
Yeah,
for sure. And what's so much fun about the personalities, getting back to the personalities, is what I notice is the formality. So oftentimes, when they introduce themselves, they'll either say something like, hello, mother, or hey, mom, or hi, mommy, or whatever. And so right off the bat, you can see their personality. They're very formal with the mother and the formality, or they're just playful and fun. And so that's really fun to watch. But when we opened the floodgates up, and we started doing a lot of sessions, we noticed themes coming up. And a lot of people who want a session, of course, are maybe contemplating euthanasia, or they have a rescue dog, and how can they help the dog? Or the dog has a behavior problem. Where's this coming from? And we're realizing that it's coming from past lives, which blew me away. We learned so much as we were doing these sessions. I had no idea that animals would remember their past lives, or that they would influence this life in the same way that humans have that issue. I had no idea. And so that was the case. And so as we're gaining all of this information, themes were coming up. How do they get along with the pet siblings in their home, even if it's a different animal, like a dog and a lizard, or a horse and a cat? What about incarnation? How does that work? How do they find their forever family? How do they match up? What happens when they have to transition? How does that work? Can I ask them to come back to me in another animal? All of those kinds of themes. And so we're like, gosh, we have so much material here. This would be very helpful to put in a book. And so Love Notes from the Animal Kingdom was created, and we made all of these chapters based on the themes that were coming up. But in the meantime, what was also fascinating, and Tom was a part of this, your husband, we, right around that same time, I had gotten this call that to be vegan, and nothing more than plant-based. This is not a big deal about being vegan, and I wasn't planning on being vegan, but I know that vegans don't eat any animal product, or don't wear any animal product, or anything like that, including honey. And to me, it just seemed, it didn't make sense to me to eliminate honey, because I really felt like it was nourishing to the body and it had a lot of importance. I just felt that intuitively. And so I wanted to ask about that. And so I thought, well, gosh, we've talked to a lot of pets. What about wild animals? What about bees? What about collectives of animals? So the bees were the first one that I decided to call in. And I said, hey, can I talk to a member of the bee collective? And I didn't know if it would be an individual bee, or if it would be a collective of bees, like you have a collective of galactics, for example. And so the bees came in, and they told me they were talking as a frequency collective. And they did talk about the honey, and they said how that they do create it for humanity. And as long as we allow them enough to have for themselves, that they're fine with us using and enjoying their honey. And they talk about it in greater length in the book. But so that was fantastic. And right after that, in the same session, I decided I might as well talk to the wasps also, because they're kind of similar, right? Well, the wasp energy was completely different. The energy of the bees was very loving and soft and just amazing. The wasps came in and the energy was a little bit harsher, a little bit more kind of in your face, kind of.
As a wasp is.
Yeah, right. And so I wanted to talk to a wasp because, when I see one, I want to kill it, frankly, because they've stung me unprovoked. Like I didn't do anything to you and you came right over and stung me out of the blue. So what the heck? So I just wanted to chat with them. And that was the first collective that made me cry. They literally made me cry because I realized, talking to them soul to soul, that they could see me. They could see my soul. They knew who I was. They knew what I was capable of. And I couldn't hide from them. I couldn't hide this idea that I could kill them and would kill them and had killed them. And so that was really a big deal. They explained their perspective again, and I had compassion for them and I have understanding now where they're coming from. But because that was all on one recording, you want to pick this up because this was interesting where Tom got a hold of that recording. Tell us about that one.
Gosh, it's just so great. It's just one of the best stories ever. So we have bees here. We struggle with it, by the way, because we're right in the middle of cropland, which is, of course, right in the middle of pesticides and all that stuff. And so we struggled keeping bees, and we had lost a hive. This was just how many years ago was this now? 2
or 3 years. Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
We'd lost a hive, and Tom was wanting some bees, and ordering bees and buying bees is sometimes you can have delivered, but we couldn't. And the only thing that Tom could figure out how to do was to go pick up what's called a package of bees. And I think it was 5,000. It comes in, and comes in this little box, and everything about this story was amazing because Tom told me, he's like, I'm driving down this dirt road and it seems like I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the middle of nowhere until I start seeing bees everywhere. So now I know I'm going in the right direction. And he shows up to this place. He says there's just several hundred hives everywhere. And a guy in just a small, I don't even know, I think it might have been a mobile home or camper or something out there. And so he's parking, but he's like, I'm not getting out of my car because there's just bees everywhere. This guy finally shows up. So Tom, he walks over and Tom rolls down the window, but he's afraid to even roll down the window more than about that. He's thinking they're all going to fly in. And so they're talking like that. And he's like, I'm here to pick up my package of bees. And so the guy goes, okay, I'll go get him. And he comes and he gets this box. And so Tom's driving Ford F-150 pickup, and it's a cool day. And he's like, well, you can't put it in the back. It was, it's very not protected. You got to put it in the cab with you. Tom's like, what?
That's funny.
Said, well, yeah, I guess put it on the floor over there, and he goes over there and there's bees all over this guy. And he's just walking around like this. And so the guy puts the package of bees on the floor of the pickup truck. And Tom is like, he's got his blood pressure up.
I think we all would at that point.
Yeah, he says, you can't believe how noisy 5,000, and I think it's 5,000 bees are, and how small of a box 5,000 bees can fit in. And the whole thing was freaking him out. So he was calling me, but it was out in the middle of nowhere. We kept losing signal. He goes, I don't know what to do. And I said, I immediately thought of you guys, and I thought of the channeling that you did, the talking to the bees. And I'm like, oh, I know what you do. Just play the bee channeling from Will and Allison. And he was like, what? And I'm like, I bet that'll help. And I didn't have anything else to say to him. I'll send you calming energy, but other than that, I don't know what you're going to do. And so I said, I'll send you the YouTube link. And so he's wondering about that. And then I go get, I get the YouTube link. I send it to him. But he's having trouble connecting. He tries a few times. He finally connects. And like the instant that you guys started talking to the bees, he said the bees immediately got more quiet. And he was absolutely amazed at that. He was absolutely amazed. he was so grateful. And you're channeling, I don't know how long the whole thing was, but he was just tooling along, and the bees had calmed so far down. He was almost getting used to the situation. I think he had a couple-hour drive to go, or at least an hour 45, something like that. But then you stop talking to the bees. And then you start talking to the wasps. The bees didn't like that at all.
I love this story.
Yeah, all of a sudden you start talking about the bees, and the bees went, and they think, I mean, how amazing is that?
So yeah, the wasp energy, it was a little.
So what he said he did was he just repeated and played the first X minutes of the bees the whole way home, and and then you all nicely asked him to write.
Yep.
That's hysterical. And because of that, I asked him to write that story in the foreword of the book. So he tells that in great detail in only Tom fashion.
Yeah.
Because he's an awesome storyteller. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. It's another great moment. You two have been so instrumental in communicating with a number of our creatures, and that was just one of them. I want to go back now and reference a couple again. These are highlights for me, but you talked about the idea of animals having past lives. So I think it's kind of in one of your repertoire, right? Your questions that you can and do often ask your clients. And so you asked that about a cat of ours, and I'm sure several other creatures too, but a cat of ours named Sammy and a dog of ours named Echo. And I remember because you were doing Sammy, and we were doing this live, or I was witnessing the channeling when Will was doing this about Sammy, who was a kitten at the time, and he was a very playful, very cute little play, and his whole thing was play, and he was a little kitten at the time. And you asked the question, have you been a cat before? And I'm not sure if the answer was yes or no, but what were you in your past life? And the answer came back, a pig. And it was funny. I mean, come on, it's funny if anybody's a pig in their past life. That's funny. But it didn't initially click, right? I mean, here's this little tiny black kitten who played a lot and ran all over. Well, that cat is now a cat and has grown up, and he is the biggest pig of a cat that you could possibly imagine. That's all he cares about is food. He wants everybody else's food. He wants to steal everybody's food. He's the kind of cat who, if I'm walking with food, he'll try to take it out of my hand while I'm walking and holding him. He acts like he's starving at all times. Like he finishes his food and he wants more food, and he tries to take everyone's food. None of that was apparent when you said he was a pig in his last life, but it came to be for sure. And then Echo is also another good one because he just seems to be really, really hot in the summer, and we have to take good care of him in the weather. So he's a little miniature Australian Shepherd, but he will he'll walk along shadows. He'll do all of that, and you found out that he was a coyote in his previous life, and of course, coyotes are nocturnal animals. Yeah. And often that's when their movement and that's moving and living their main life is in the dark. So happily, though, the dog does sleep. He doesn't seem to have a problem sleeping at night, but he likes it cool. So yeah, I mean, there's other bits and stories to talk about too, but we'll leave it there. Some of the biggest surprises that animals have told you about relationships, I guess. I think the biggest surprise is like for the clients, for the owners, for their humans. Yeah. What have been some of the big surprises for them?
Maybe the depth of the love that's there is overwhelming sometimes. I think most humans that would want an animal session are very connected to their pets, obviously. I think, well, there's a couple of things. One is that the animals say that the two most joyful times in their life is coming into the body and leaving the body. And that's really hard for humans to wrap their mind around, because we are devastated when our animal transitions. And they want us to understand that they're going to a beautiful place. They know where they're going. They get to do this again, and that it's so joyful for them to come into the body. And so they want us not to be filled with grief. And they want us to, know that they're still around, that they're going to be around, that they're still going to make themselves known to you, and that you can reach out and talk to them, even though they're not in the physical body anymore. And so I think that's one thing that's a little bit hard for humans. They don't want to hear that they aren't grief stricken when they're passing. In fact, they want to help us with our grief. But there've been so many interesting revelations, like the dog that had a stomach issue. Turns out he had swallowed some orbs. Like all of the animals a lot of times the animals will come in and they'll look around, and here we're in the treehouse. Yeah. This is a space where we do our work. And they look around like, oh my goodness, there's so many sparklies, and they can see all the energy. And that's a whole chapter in the book, how they see energy and orbs and all of that. Well, this dog saw orbs that would come up to his face, and he decided, I'm just going to eat it. So he ate 2 of them, and they were messing up his stomach and filling it up, and he couldn't eat, or he had upset stomach. So I walked him through expelling it, and he was fine. And his parents were about to spend a lot of money on a vet. So that was funny.
Wait. So wait. Okay, I have to ask you this. So you went this way and not that way.
What, when it came out? When it came out?
Yeah, it came out. Yeah, it came up.
It did. It had it come up and out the mouth. And Will actually opened his mouth and expelled something.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, I guess that would be preferable than going the other direction.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't make for a pleasant session.
So okay. So my natural question would be, did you talk to the orbs?
I didn't, because we only do these 30 minutes. And so we have a lot to accomplish in 30 minutes, trying to diagnose the issue, first of all, and then solve the issue. So that takes a lot of time. And usually that we can only do about one issue if that's something in depth like that.
Yeah, within 30 minutes, yeah.
Unless they get an extended session. So that's a good point. It would have been fun to talk to the orb.
I wonder if an orb is considered an animal. I mean, it's just kind of an energy being, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be, that's so interesting. And I wonder, okay, so now what kind of experience and existence do those orbs have after being
vomited up by swallowed and then vomited up?
Going off on quite the little tangent here.
Right.
But there's lots of fun sessions. There was a really interesting one where the dog in this life was it, a Schnauzer? I think it was a Schnauzer. The woman had 2 or 3 Schnauzers. She knew what Schnauzers were and that this was a Schnauzer.
Oh, yeah.
But she did a DNA test and it came back Chihuahua.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, there is nothing about this dog that says Chihuahua. She knew her Schnauzers. Well, anyway, in a couple of past lives before this one, it was a Chihuahua and it didn't have a great life. And so
I remember that. Yeah.
In this life, the human and the Schnauzer had agreed to come in together because they were going to help clear this Chihuahua life. So the Chihuahua had made an agreement with the Schnauzer in all of these lives up to this point, to kind of embody, I guess the best way to explain it is the Schnauzer was embodying that Chihuahua energy so that the Chihuahua could live its best life, because it did not enjoy the life that it was a Chihuahua. So these animals, subsequent animals, were allowing it to kind of link in with their energy and enjoy life. Mm-hmm. But it was time.
This is a service dog being like a service dog to a house or a deceased.
Its own past life. Its own past life.
Yeah, its own past life.
Yeah.
Oh, its own. Okay.
It was its own past life, and so.
Well, I guess then that would be an aspect. We'd call that an aspect.
Right. So this was so amazing. So I guess we all connected and agreed that we were going to meet up and have this session, and we allowed them to separate at this point. And so I subsequently channeled, I don't remember, Ezekiel, who works with the animals, or maybe it was the collective, and I asked if she were to get a subsequent DNA test, would it show Schnauzer at this point? And they said probably. But to think that the reason that the DNA was showing Chihuahua was because there was Chihuahua energy. So that goes to show you that the DNA, our DNA, animals' DNA, is not only physical but energetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always said DNA is a story. It's stories. We try to classify everything scientifically and measurable and all that stuff, but it's the stories that run through our lives for sure.
Mhm.
Actually, I know this is another tangent, but that's who I am. So I've been during the really cold spell that we had a week or so ago, and I was driving out to the barn in the really, really cold snow and ice and all of that. And while I'm doing that, I'm thinking to myself about my own ancestry. One of the reasons that I'm here is because my great grandparents lived and settled in Nebraska, and they homesteaded there, and they took shovels and dug out a side of a hill, and that's where they lived. They lived in dirt. Through Nebraska winters, and that you've got to be tough to be able to survive that kind of life. And that's in my makeup. And I've always been so grateful, thinking back to what my ancestors do. But I have to laugh at myself because the truck we have now automatically heats the steering wheel if it's really cold. And I'm driving from my house to the barn with a heated steering wheel, and I'm feeling actually embarrassed for my DNA, embarrassed for my ancestors. I'm like, you did all that, and I have a heated steering wheel.
So much for roughing it.
Yeah. I don't think they had automatic heated horse halters back then. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Right. Just, I don't know, just kind of nutty,
Yeah.
but wow, just kind of amazing. So it's sort of like, isn't it interesting? So humans, like, we figure out how to help ourselves doing some of this work. And one of the things that comes up to me right now to sort of make an analogy is we learn very much about the inner child work we do, right? Well, that time when I was in kindergarten, this thing really upset me. I can, as an adult, think of my inner child and have a conversation with myself there. And it's just so fascinating because this is a version of a pet doing that for itself, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so amazingly, beautifully complicated, to be honest.
Right. That's why this is just endlessly fascinating what we do. Every once in a while, I'll walk by and people watching TV and I look at that and I'm like, I like a good movie or a good TV show, but they're so few and far between. I find what we do in this work, it just beats everything. It beats everything so much. It makes everything else sort of, I don't know, just not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So if we find ourselves with a couple of hours on an evening, I'm not going to sit and watch TV. I'm going to go, hey, let's go channel.
Let's go upstairs and
talk to somebody. Who can we talk to tonight?
Let's go experiment. Let's go play.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Okay. Well, now I have to ask this question then. In what way does your answer sometimes say no when you're not feeling physically well, or
Yeah. So it's, I look at what I do in a way that whether it's for ourselves or whether it's for the client, I want to ensure that I'm at peak performance. Think of an athlete. An athlete isn't going to go take on, a gold medal, run if he's not fully capable of it. And so in that same kind of thought process, I check in with myself, throughout the day to see where I am. Now, if I have a client session at 4:00, I mind what I do, say 1:00 on, because I want to make sure that I'm at peak performance. My energy's, right. I'm not going to go out there and start, chopping cordwood, or I'm not going to go out there and, start, deving on a new website or something like that. I'm going to just kind of chill and just, mind myself to that point. For personal sessions, kind of the same thing. Allison's like, Allison will ask, hey, matter of fact, just the other day, we want to do some more experimenting with one of our cats. and I was just like, not feeling it. So let's hold off. And because I want to make sure that even for ourselves, I want to make sure that whatever's coming through is going to come through at peak performance. And I don't want to shy away from, taking on anything, but I also want to be able to provide the best of myself.
Well, and there haven't been very many at all.
No.
Times when you've had to cancel.
There was
maybe once or twice.
Back in 2019, I guess it was, my back went completely sideways. And I came up here prepared for a session. I sat down in the chair and I'm like, oh, there's too much there. I'm not going to be able to drop in because it's going to be too distracting because that pain is too extreme. Actually had to call the client and say, we need to postpone. So it's, it's been very rare.
Thank goodness.
For myself.
Yeah.
Now, you just went through a bout. We had to reschedule a few things.
I got that Thanksgiving crud.
Yep. We're a paired unit here. So her energy is just as important as my energy. So Allison has to be at her peak performance. And so she came down with some crud and we had to reschedule a bunch of different clients. And thankfully they were very accommodating and we were able to do so. But it's a matched pair when you sign on to have a session. So,
well, that's an integrity thing too.
Mm-hmm.
When we work like this in the world of energy, you think, well, there's other kinds of jobs that you can just get her done or bang it out, but not this.
Not this.
You really have to pay attention. How you step into that, and that's with BQH and all this kind of work.
Yeah.
All right. So how often is the client or the animal's owner or animal's human completely off base and wrong about their assessment of the situation? How often is that? And how often is it like confirmation that they already kind of understand something? Like what's that continuum like? I'm sure it's spot on to nowhere near what's really going on. What's it most of the time with the people who contact you?
What I think is happening is if there's an issue physically with the animal and they've already gotten a vet's kind of take on it, they trust their gut and they come and have a pet session because they either don't believe it or they think there's another way besides conventional meds and surgery and things like that.
Yep.
So I don't think it's a matter of them knowing exactly what is happening and being right or wrong. I think it's that they trust that there's a better way or they want a different opinion energetically. They tend to be metaphysically minded. Mm-hmm. Or they just don't want to spend the money or put the animal through that kind of pain of surgery and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so they go out on a limb, and we're happy that they do that. We are very appreciative that they are willing to trust us, trust themselves. And they're usually quite rewarded. Yeah. And even if the behavior doesn't change, like I said, or the physicality, we can't pinpoint it exactly. We do get clues, but just that conversation changes the dynamic so much. And it does help and I hate the word owner, but it does help the human to better understand their pet moving forward. And the animals recognize that and say that. They say always, they're like, I think after this session, she's going to understand me better. We're going to be able to communicate even better than we already do. Mm-hmm. And it's really fun when the animal confirms how well they're already communicating. Yeah. So there are a lot of pet owners or humans who really have great lines of communication, particularly with horse owners. I've noticed with horse people, they really understand their horses because horses are so special. They're just different. They are, what did I channel the other day and send you, Candace? I think it was that they are on a higher vibrational level than most animals because they are therapeutic in nature. They help humans therapeutically, whether you realize it or not. And so the humans that get it, that get horses, really typically have special relationships.
Well, they have such a huge heart field.
Mhm.
And, I used to say long before getting into this work, I mean, I've loved horses from the time I can remember, which is very, very small. And I've had horses most of my life, but there for a time in our early years of marriage, there wasn't the time nor capacity for that at all. And I knew that I missed horses terribly. I knew that I missed them, but I actually was getting sick without them. I mean, actually ill. And you can become ill from an emotional lack or cause. Absolutely, I understand that. But what I didn't fully appreciate too was the physicality of their bodies and connecting, because most people with horses ride them, not all, and you don't have to, that's for sure. I mean, we don't ride our dogs, right? And they're still our companion animals. But what I have found is that humans are so disconnected with the planet. I mean, even people who want to be connected with the planet, and me, I want to be outside more than often I'm able to be. But even when I am outside, I have soles boots, and I'm not touching the earth because of the weather or protection of my feet or whatever. But this thing happens when you're on a horse, so you're touching the horse, and that horse is touching the ground. And that is like some of the most amazing healing energy I know. And I absolutely, well, I'm already hearing it here. Dolores and more, it's so much of my DNA, it's so much of my story, so many of my own lives have been intertwined with horses. And I used to joke, I used to make this joke. Well, were they born with the horse DNA? Like it was a joke. No, it's actually real. Like the lives that you've had, that you've lived with horses, it informs your DNA. And I was getting ill with that. So, a genetic disease when I didn't have a horse. So, it wasn't just like flippant to not to want a horse, just extravagance. It was for my, I needed it. I had a genetic condition that requires one. I'll say that. So
Can't argue with that.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of horses, and we have been speaking with a new horse of mine, and we've been doing some recording. So I want to take this moment to sort of announce this idea that Will and Allison and I have about following particular animal through a series of events or situations, and different questions that could come up, and etc. And so we're gonna start with I was gonna say our friend Hickory, but he is our friend Hickory. My horse, my beautiful new quarter horse named Hickory. And we've already done some of that, but stay tuned. We're going to get to that. But what I was hoping was that would inspire other sort of series of following, because all these stories are great, right? All of these stories are great about the dogs and the cats or whatever. But I love the idea of like checking in and seeing the progression, and seeing maybe, a longer story come up with some of that. So we're going to talk about that for possibly next time. We already have some things recorded in the vault, so to speak, where we'll put together for you all. And the dynamics of particularly in this case, Will and Allison, they talked to this horse before he ever made the decision and the thing happened that he came here. And that was fascinating. And so we're going to go through all of that in subsequent shows. So I hope you all do stay tuned for that. But, one of the things that we also were talking about, though, was this idea of really connecting with the idea that you don't have to be born with a special gift to begin a deeper communication with your own animal. Sure. And so why don't you take a few minutes, Will and Allison, and talk about that just a little bit, for as long as you've done this, what are just a couple of tips you can give even right now people about how they can have a deeper communication and connection with their own animal.
I think you bring up a good point earlier, what you said about the horse and the heart field, right? It's that's where the connection starts. No matter whether it's your gerbil or whether it's your horse, whether it's your goldfish or your lizard, just tune into that heart field and really immerse yourself in that animal's heart field. I'll say it, many of the cats I grew up with and had them from, as young as I can remember, all the way until I graduated high school and then met Allison. We had more cats. There's plenty of times I took my animal for granted. I took one of the cats for granted, that it would always love on me. It would always be there. It would always jump in my lap. I would just take it for granted. But when you just sit, it's one of those moments where you just sit and it's there on your lap. And instead of just staring off at the TV or your phone, just take a moment and just be at peace. Be immersed in that connectedness you have. They're on your lap for a reason, whether it's a dog, a cat, whatever it might be. They're there. They're next to you. They want to be with you, and they're there for a reason. And if you can, adjust yourself to their heart field, that's really where the true, I'll say, compassion, empathy, the all of those aspects all blend together, and that's the true relationship you end up having with the animal from that point. So,
and talking about the heart, the collective just mentioned a couple of months ago, I think, in one of our monthly trainings. And if you were interested in drawing more wild animals or being outside in your backyard or in nature and talking to those types of animals, to just go out there, get in your heart space and speak the words. Because when you speak the words, you are bypassing the mind, and the left brain is going to stall you and tell you you're crazy or change what you want to say from your heart. So instead of having it come from the mind, come from the heart, talk to them from your heart. And that as you continue to do that, you will be able to tune in and understand what message they have for you, whether it's the hummingbird out there or the bears walking across. Our friends in Colorado see them frequently, or the snakes in your yard. Maybe you'd rather them not come so close. You can talk to them and check in with them also. So, coming from the heart is so important.
Yeah, it's just, just for us here, we've got geese, we've got squirrels, we've got them all. And there isn't a day that goes by when I walk outside, that's just to check on my greenhouse or come up here to the treehouse or just walk out onto my property. Hey, good morning, geese. How you guys doing? I'm talking to them. I'm immersing myself in their space. And do I get a message from them every time? No, but I can just tell, because what I can tell, especially with the geese, is as soon as I start that conversation with them, where I just say, hey, how's your day? What are you up to? That kind of thing. Hey, I'm not here to bother you, whatever. I can literally walk through. They're sleeping and they're just but they always have one eye open. They're always kind of looking around. I can walk right through within 10 feet of them. And these are wild geese. Normally it would just flutter away. But I've opened myself up to them and said, hey, I'm here. I'm not going to bother you. I just need to get from here to there. Just, I'll let you sleep. And I just quietly walk through, and they're fine with that. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And bring that into the house with whatever animal you have. It really opens a whole nother layer of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever heard you say, Will, that you grew up with cats. I love all animals, all animals for sure. Cats and horses for me, those two. But I'll leave you with this little cat thing. Our daughter's showing up for Christmas, and her children and her husband too. And I think it's 9 days from now they're showing up, and they have cautioned me, and Lauren has cautioned me more than once. She was like, we miss you guys, we really do. But please don't be offended that they're going to kiss the air, hi, grandmama, and then run downstairs to their cats. And Lauren, Lauren's 33. She's 33 years old. And this is living in Japan is the first time in her whole life that she's not lived with cats. And it's absolutely devastating for her. It's just devastating. I mean, it was the correct decision to not send these elderly cats to a place that has little vet care, and the quarantine, they may not have even survived. But it's just fascinating how much their lives are wrapped around these creatures, how much our lives are wrapped around these creatures. And I mean, I feel a little bit like Dr. Dolittle sometimes. And I thought very seriously about becoming a veterinarian when I was younger. And I just wouldn't be without them. I love surrounding myself with all these animals. And what a gift it's been to be able to talk to some of them so intimately with you, and to be continued. So I guess that may wrap it up for us today, unless there's anything you all want to say there at the end.
No, this was fun, and I look forward to sharing the journey of Hickory and all of the other fun stuff we're going to do in this series.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be fun.
It's going to be great. It's really going to be great. Yes. And I want to emphasize again that people on our forum at quantumhealers.com, many of us talk to animals, some very formally and offer sessions like Will and Allison, and others, do it a little more casually. But those are the kind of conversations we have on our support forum. And I look forward. So if you are a pet communicator, come join us at quantumhealers.com. If you're a healer of any kind, please consider joining us. We love to share ideas and session stories across modalities, across approaches. I think it's the new kind of more expanded, let's put it that way. It's an expanded, enlightening place for healers that isn't so tied down and narrow-minded and lead focused. So we invite all healers to join us.
Absolutely.
And that's it for us today. Okay. And you can find Will and Allison both on quantumhealers.com, and they're going to tell you their websites right now.
And lotus.com is our website. If you're interested in a session, you can find us there.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Well, thanks, you guys. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.